working, man.
I know what my audience like. I did some independent films with Master P. A lot of those movies did really well.
I'm ambitious. I'm a hustler. I have my own lane.
That's the thing about comedy. You wake up every day, you don't know if you're funny that day.
Hey, yes indeed, yes indeed. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Go Live with Lamont King. I'm Lamont King. We are now live. Let's go. Let's go. Turn that down. That's the new microphone system that they got. It's real crispy. Good to see y'all. Welcome to the program, man. Something like a podcast. We do this each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Lord willing, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. East Coast time. Shout out to everybody watching on the West Coast right now, and the Midwest, and worldwide. Peanut Gallery, what up? Our usuals, no individual shout outs. Good to see you, though. Hope you brought somebody. Newcomers, announce yourself. Thumbs up in the chat. First timers, we appreciate you. Do a little bit of everything here, man. Hilarious commentary, trending topics, celebrity guests, and interesting people is what it is. No other live show quite like this. No other podcast with this live feel. So that's what it is. Okay, let's see. Hold on, let's check. We gotta check. Hold up. Oh, I'm good. Good to go. How's the weather in your neck of the woods, man? It's real lovely here, man. We're broadcasting live from the newly remodeled Drunken Fruit Studios.
I don't care if it is a closet. You still looking mad efficient.
Inside the Tiny Closet Command Center. Make sure you hit up Drunken Fruit, at Drunken Fruit on Instagram. See the new posts. I got some new stuff, surprises in store, and some special, especially for the DMV area. Check them out. Spell it right. Got to spell it right because you'll end up on the wrong page, and it'd be like, you'd be like, oh, what is this? I didn't expect that. Go to the real one. Often duplicated, never imitated. You understand? All right. Oh, appreciate you, Teron. Appreciate you, man. You can get one just like it in a town called Havana. Like, it's just legitimate. It was cheap, but you got to go get it because I ain't seen it nowhere else. Havana, Cuba. Old Havana. All right, y'all. 70 in Houston. Nice. Good outside and play. Make sure you get out there and play, man. Go outside and do something different. Like play for real. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if y'all didn't catch Friday's show, man, Friday's show was one for the books, man. It was off the hook. It was hold on, my mouse froze. Oh, did I just run out of juice on the mouse? I can't even move. Oh, I'm frozen. Connection lost. One of them Bluetooth joints. Oh, let's see. I can get it back. Connected. Oh, there we go. Hit the little button. I got to change the batteries, y'all. Let me take this off the screen. It's a live show. Don't trip. But Friday, man, all fun and games followed up a great Karen Hunter show on Sirius XM, and we got to get in a good conversation. We had our executive producer, Mr. Clarkson from Studio G on. We had our New York bureau chief, John Watson, and co-host of All Fun and Games. He was on. We was in. Oh, this junk gonna die right just the whole time. Oh yeah, batteries. Let me plug in the wired mouse, the corded mouse. We were having a good old time, man. And Karen Hunter jumped on the show. She was in the chat lurking, and then they say, she got in the waiting room. She joined the show. And we had a nice little conversation, man. Good 20 minutes back and forth, repartee, if you will, rap the taste. And then she stayed for the. She said she told me later she was only on because she wanted to see if the money wheel was legitimate, and she synced it. So yeah, man, we had a lot of fun on Friday. I got a bone to pick with y'all too. Hold up. Let me get this in. Make sure I put this in the right slot. I'm gonna get this mouse action. All right, there we go. See the technology, man. Sometimes the Bluetooths, it ain't nothing, man. Ain't worth the plastic is made out of. Go back to the original mouse. That's why I like old technology. Anyway, I got a bone to pick with y'all. Get personal real quick. Some of y'all been with us. We've been here almost a year. It's almost been a year, man. And some of y'all really had the audacity to jump out there because Karen Hunter came through and y'all was like, oh, this show is legit now. Oh, this is a real show. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, knock it off.
You better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you.
Come on, man. We've been legitimate. We don't need nobody to legitimize us, man. We've been official. You just ain't been telling nobody. I done had some premier guests on this joint, some prime timers. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna wait till Karen Hunter get in here and be like, oh, this is just a real show now. What? Man. Disappointed in some of you. But it's all good. But anyway, she came through. She dropped a super chat, and we had a fun money wheel, man. And we had a back-to-back winner, Haynes, out of Vegas. And so some good news for this week's money wheel. Let y'all know. Let's put this for the newcomers. We do a live 50-50 raffle on the show every Friday. And you can get on it. $5 a slot. Put your name down there as many times as you want. Each slot is $5. We have some of the best slots in town. Cashapp, LetsGoLiveShow. Or you can just support us. Help keep the lights on. Pay for the internet, the streaming service, the phones, the ring light, and all of that. You can do that too. But if you want to get on the money wheel. So here's the thing. Quite a few people donate. I'm not going to say their names until Friday. Some people just Friday's show was so off the hook. A couple people just donated to the pot because it was a whole lot of fun. It was all fun and games. So there's only one name on the money wheel board as it stands. We all know who that is. They're on there every week. But there's only one name. However, with Haynes' kickback into the kitty and a few other donations, one name on the wheel at this point in time, plus the donations of some of you good folks, $205. $205. Karen Hunter put in a significant amount. Haynes' kickback, a couple other people I'll wait to name later in the week. 205 is what we plan for on Friday. So 50-50. So that's $102.50. Hey, John Watson, we back to splitting coins. $102.50 is what you plan for. Cash money, live on the air, must be present to win. So there's that, all right? The money wheel. You ain't gonna see it done nowhere else. All right, let's get into today's show. I got some topics lined up a little bit later. I'm open the phones for you guys. Wait a minute. 765 let's go one. 765 let's go one. At any point in time to get in on today's conversation. All right. So, but right now we're gonna go to our first guest because she's super busy, and I know time is of a premium. Her hours are billable. You know what I'm saying? Friend of the program, fan favorite. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ike Speaks. What's good with ya?
What's going on, family? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. You crispy.
All right.
And it's sharp too. I had no clue. You know, we didn't see you in the winter before daylight saving time. I didn't know that room had a window in it.
Yeah, it's a window over here. I had to open it up because I'll be flashing. I'm a woman of a certain age.
A woman of a certain age. It look good in there. It look real crispy now. That's good.
Thank you.
Good natural light. Let me find your name. I gotta find your name. I ain't been here in a minute. Where that? All right, here we go. Against the Law. Yeah, there it is. All right. So let's get into it first. The Derek Chauvin trial. I gotta make this as dramatic as possible. The Derek Chauvin capital murder, we all seen you do it, homicide, cop killer trial. Yes. Like if I had a TV network, that's how the shit would come on. The Derek Chauvin homicide, cop killer, murderer trial. Because they trying to soften. They do such a job on these networks of trying to soften and then just vilify George Floyd like
they called it the George Floyd trial.
Yeah.
What?
So week 3. So let's slow walk it. Week 3, because it's a couple parts to it that I don't understand.
Okay.
Week 3 of jury selection.
Yes.
We saw there was some talk last week. They were like, man, it's gonna be hard finding someone that hasn't seen the tape. And they're even talking about maybe they have to move it.
Right.
And then OJ gets on Twitter and be like, nah, they ain't moved mine. So they'll have to move it.
And they're not moving his either.
Yeah. How realistic of a request was that? Was it even considered?
Yeah, it's a realistic request given the media coverage, right? It's a realistic request, but it's not likely because it was so highly covered. No matter where you go, you're going to be met with the same type of people who have probably seen the video. So the question doesn't become whether or not you saw the video. The question is whether, having seen the video, can you still be fair and impartial in this trial? And many people said, yeah. Some people hadn't seen the video, only saw still images here and there. Some people said they saw the video and they could still be fair and impartial. Some people straight up and said, I cannot be fair and impartial. They actually had a seated juror that once it was released that the city had settled for $27 million. He's like, oh, I can't be fair no more. I can't be fair anymore. And they had to replace him. So they're finished basically jury selection. They have 12 jurors and 2 alternates. They're looking for at least 2 more. The judge would like to have 4 alternates as a safety net, just in case some shit goes south and they have to replace jurors. But opening statements Monday, the 29th.
Now, a couple questions, and Mr. Clarkson has a question that was in my head, and I was just about to ask it. Like, as a prosecutor who's gone through this process, do you believe when people say, "Oh yeah, I can be fair and impartial"? What type of person is that? Like, what type of person do you have to be to really lay that out there and be like, right. Are you a trained Navy SEAL? Are you an emotionless vessel? Like, how does that? What do you mean I can be fair and impartial?
It means that I can listen to the evidence without preforming any judgment about this case. I can keep an open mind, and I can receive the evidence that is going to come in, and then I can pair that evidence with the court's instruction on the law, right? Because the court is going to say, this is what the law says about 3rd-degree murder, 2nd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter. The jury then has to take those facts and see if they satisfy the elements of those crimes. So it's not that difficult. If you can do that and keep an open mind and not be swayed just by that video alone, then you would be able to be a fair juror.
Now, for the person that says after the civil, verdict or whatever, or payout, they can no longer, what do they mean? They're swayed which way?
They're so influenced by the fact that the city paid the family that much money. It's sort of them acknowledging guilt.
Oh, okay, got it. So it'd have been that way. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they would have been the other way, where it was like, hey man, I don't need
his right mouth.
Yeah. All right. So what are the chances? I hate to ask that question this early, but the reason why I asked that is because I just read an article and it got me to thinking. So the headline is Derek Chauvin's This MSNBC 2 hours ago. Derek Chauvin's trial is a chance for the justice system to prove it can actually work.
What? See, work in what way though?
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's the justice system working, right? Such a nebulous headline because anybody can take it, and it can mean anything to either side, right? Because an acquittal could mean the justice system is working for those people, and a conviction means the justice system is working. So that headline is,
but it also implies that it's not working. So, when you say something is proved that it can finally work, then it must mean it wasn't working before. But y'all didn't admit to that before when we said that.
Right. Absolutely.
But what are the chances? We've seen cases with video. We've seen I could name at least 10 where the video is compelling enough to maybe not prove the case or prove premeditation, but at least the video is, I saw this happen. Eric Garner, Rodney King, Philando Castile. Yeah, y'all beat it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I can see this happening on video. What are the chances this time that it's like, all right, y'all effed up, just guilty? Because 9 minutes of this. I mean, come on, guy. Like, what are the chances of the court, the case going that way?
So any trial is 50-50. Any trial, because the 2020 video is not the only video that the jury is going to consider. So last Friday, the court on defense motion agreed to allow the defense to enter evidence of the 2019 arrest in which George Floyd displayed some of the same behavior, in which he was taken to the hospital because he had ingested some of the same drugs, methamphetamines, fentanyl, and he was experiencing high blood pressure, and he was on the verge of a stroke, according to those medical records, right? And so they want to bring that in to show that this is his modus operandi. When he's getting arrested, this is what he does. He goes into this behavior, and then he ingests drugs, because in the 2019 arrest, he was taken to the hospital. He wasn't taken to jail, right? And so this is the thing that he's developed. So if I just act a little like I can't really understand what they're doing, and then I ingest some drugs and I get to the hospital, then I won't be charged with a crime. And so the defense is saying this is what he does. And he tried to do the same thing in 2020. It's exactly the same. And so he didn't die as a result of Derek Chauvin. He died because he didn't get the medical treatment that he got in 2019 when he was on the verge of a stroke or a heart attack. And so the defense is saying causation is an issue here. It's not the fact that Chauvin was on his neck. It's the fact that he was full of opioids. He had compromised health issues. He had some COVID issues, and the culmination of all of those things is what caused his death, not Chauvin. And you only need one person to believe that. You only need one person.
But
you have to have all of them for a conviction or all of them for an acquittal.
Okay,
so
now
one person will say, and that's a hung jury. A hung jury for the defense. I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's a win.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we get to go home. And y'all got to do it again. And y'all got to think about doing it again.
The way you laid it out, now I got the answer to my question. He'll get off, because I didn't even think of that. And I've known, I come from a certain era, and I remember cats who used to do that.
Yes, me too.
They'd take off running and swallow it.
And swallow.
Yeah. And so now that I didn't know that that's what he did, and I didn't know that he was arrested for that previously.
Yeah. Video's coming in of that.
Oh, jeez.
Video and DNA evidence, because I believe what they're showing from 2020 was that there was pills in the back of the car where he was with in the Chauvin arrest. Right. So they're linking this up to say this is exactly the same. And look what happened.
Pattern. This is what this is what he does.
Modus operandi, the exact language they use, the MO. That's what MO stands for. Modus operandi. This is his method of operation.
That being said, you just gave us how the defense would try it. Give us the other side. How, if you were a prosecutor, how would you try it?
He didn't die in 2019, but did you die? Right. So I'm right away. I'm going to say, yeah, these events are exactly the same, but for the fact that Derek Chauvin put his knee on my client's neck or on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But for that fact, he would still be alive, just like he was alive in 2019. So even when you get bad evidence, because you always get bad evidence as an attorney, you have to know how to use it in your favor. And so the prosecution has been trying very diligently to keep this evidence out. But now that it's in, I really hope they know how to use it, right? And what they need to do is exploit the fact that Chauvin wasn't around in 19 and Joyce Floyd lived. And all things being equal, the only difference now is 8 minutes and 46 seconds of your knee on his neck. And that's why he's dead. You have to be able to prove causation. You have to prove every element of every crime, right? You have to prove that he intended when it comes to the second degree. That's they charged him with assault that resulted in a death. So you have to prove that he intended to assault George Floyd. I don't think they're going to get that. I don't think they're going to get that. Their best shot is the reinstated third degree. Their best shot, and that's the depraved mind, right? The depraved mind, which is the same count that Muhammad Noor was convicted of. If you recall, he was the Minnesota police officer who was convicted of third-degree murder for killing Justine, I think it's Dumont, something like that. He got 12 and a half years on third-degree conviction, and that was recently upheld.
And so they recently reinstated the third degree on this charge, correct?
Reinstated, exactly. Because they just threw it out initially.
So the hope would be, or the implication would be, that they think that they would be better off getting that third than the second.
Yes. Or they hope the jury will compromise, which is not uncommon, right? So if you have 3 charges and the jury is like, well, not really that, not really, but we got to give them something. All right, give them the third. Give him not guilty on the second counts, and then give him guilty on the third. That's a good compromise.
Now, with the Muhammad Noor case that you brought up, that 12 years he got from the judge.
Yes.
So in this case, even if he's found guilty on third degree, it's up to the judge to either nail him to the wall or babyfoot him.
That's right.
So he could.
The range on third degree, based on what I've been reading, is 10 to 15 years. That's the range. But, precedent is precedent. And they are very keenly aware that the Muhammad Noor case is lurking in the shadows. And so you really can't treat a police officer who's convicted of the exact same crime that much differently. So he should get at least 12 and a half or more. He should, if he gets convicted of third degree.
Well, the argument would be Justine Dumont wasn't hopped up on methamphetamines. That's where they're going to end the comparison.
It's not a mitigating circumstance for the crime. It's still you're convicted of third degree murder. It's the same exact charge.
Okay. So you're saying if guilty, and there's already been a precedent, that's what should happen.
That's what did happen so far, right? And so we want to keep that consistency. What happened with the third degree is when it got tossed, the prosecutor said, reconsider, judge. Judge said, no, I'm not going to reconsider. I'm going to keep it tossed. They appealed to the intermediate level court in Minnesota. And that court was just hearing Noor's appeal. And so when they came down and said third degree can apply to one person, that was the issue. So let me be clear. Typically, third degree murder is when you create a risk to others, right? And so the judge says this didn't involve others. This only involved what is alleged a risk to one person. That's why it doesn't apply here. That's why he threw it out. However, the high court said, with respect to Noor, third degree can apply. Others can be one. They upheld that others being one with respect to Justine Drummond. So if it could be one for her, it could be one for him.
Right.
Right. And so that's why he had to then follow the court's decision, because the precedent came directly from the court above him. So he had no choice but to reinstate the third. So the precedent is there, and he's acutely aware of it, and he knows what Noor got, and he knows the court upheld that. So I really can't see in good conscience him, if he is found guilty of the third, getting less than that 12 and a half.
Now, are you familiar with the team that's doing the prosecuting?
I am not. And I've only been able to see, one or two of them. It's hard to, this is my issue. 95% of prosecutors are white people or white women, men and women, and they can't tell our story. They can't tell the George Floyd story. So what the prosecutor tried to do was they had a motion to admit a psychiatrist or a psychologist who was going to explain why George Floyd responded to the police in the way he did, right? The trauma that he has experienced in his life, having been a gunshot victim in the past. When he sees a gun, he freaks out, it's PTSD, blah, blah, blah. The judge's like, no.
Yeah, that don't work for us. They don't believe we feel pain and we get scared.
None of that.
Yeah,
Right,
we don't get scared.
And so that can't be conveyed now because white prosecutors, and I hate to say it, you can't convey my pain.
Yeah.
You just cannot. And which is why you needed somebody to come in and do it for you. And now the judge has shut that door. So how are you going to rebut and explain his behavior in that video, in the 2019 video?
So the reason why I asked that is because I can remember when the George Zimmerman case, and I remember that was my first real case in a long time that I had paid attention to, probably since maybe the OJ or whatever, where I was like day one, I was in it and watching court TV all hours of the day, and I was just so disappointed because I ain't go to liquor law school. But I watched a lot of Law and Order, and I was like, these guys are really like they're throwing this game. I'm watching the TV like you are just giving it away. So I wonder, somebody in your position, do you look when you see the press conferences and when you see who's lined up to do the work? Do you look at them and be like, they could have got somebody better than that?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I do it. Having been a former prosecutor and as criminal defense attorney, I do it on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I was on this case, somebody going to jail. And if I was on this case, somebody walking out with me. Like,
right.
That's just how I feel about it. You know? Because I can look at the evidence and you have to know how to make something of it. It has to mean something. You are an interpreter in that court. You are translating for that jury what this evidence means. It's not just evidence. It means something. And you have to tell them how to look at it. This is how you should consider this evidence. And I don't know that they have that. I don't see it in there. But listen, it hasn't started yet.
Yeah, right.
And I'll say to everybody in the chat, if you had to vote right now, how would you find Derek Chauvin?
Yeah, let's see real quick. Let's say thumbs up is not guilty and thumbs down is guilty in the YouTube chat. Let's do a quick straw poll.
Yes.
She's about to make a point. She's gonna make a point. So thumbs up if you think Chauvin will be found not guilty. If the trial started today.
If you were a juror today.
If you were a juror today.
You have to vote right now. What is your vote?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a delay.
Everyone should have the same vote.
Well, everybody should, yeah, right.
Everyone should have the same vote.
If you the juror.
That's not the vote, right? I'm looking at nope.
Of course, Jay Lee says not guilty.
And that's why I brought that up, right? Everybody's saying guilty.
Right.
He's presumed innocent. You haven't heard any evidence. You haven't heard one piece of evidence. Has it? Because the trial hasn't started. You haven't heard any evidence that could convince you of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Remember, the jurors can only consider the evidence that comes in that trial, not the news reports, not the shit on social media.
So everybody in this chat would be struck down as potential jurors because we're not fair. We're not impartial at all.
Exactly, and that's what I want. I want to rehab all of you because I want you to be jurors someday, right? And so one of the things that I do is when I'm doing voir dire or voir dire, and that's the questioning of prospective jurors, the first two questions I ask, the first one is, when you walked in here, how many people said to yourself, I wonder what he did? Right? Because most people, when you walk in, you see the guy sitting next to, and you're like, I wonder what the fuck he did.
Yeah.
So my next question is, now, how many people said, I wonder what he's accused of? Yeah, you see that? And that's the reaction I'm looking for every prospective juror at that moment. Because it's in that moment that you got to check yourself.
So which one would you get rid of them? You said you want to rehab them. Like what would you?
Well, first, I want people to be aware of their thinking, right? Because just like you said that, right. People may not even be aware that they have already presumed someone guilty.
But white people do that all the time. White people do that all the time.
Right, but not when you walk into this courtroom. You got to be different. We in a vacuum. This courtroom is not real life. Okay, we're gonna ask you to do some shit you do not do, right? In real life, we're gonna ask you to make a decision for which you don't know the consequences. You have to decide guilt or innocence, and we're not going to tell you how much time this person is going to get as a result of that. People don't make decisions like that.
No.
Right? That's not how you go about your life. You're like, okay, if I decide this, what's going to happen? All right. And then you weigh. That's not what happens in court. You don't get to make the decision. The judge is going to tell you. You don't get to consider the sentencing. Okay, you don't get to consider that. Neither do you get to use sympathy or bias or any of those things that you typically use. You can't use any of that when you are deciding this case, right? And so all of these constraints come about that, those of us who are not in the courtroom, right, when the decision comes, we're like, how the fuck they got, what did they
yeah.
And it's crazy, but the truth is because they're not exposed to what everyone else is exposed to, and they have a limited set of facts that they must consider, and they can't go outside those facts if they're doing their job as they swear to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So very easily, when we put aside our expectations, we can see that this man can very, very well, very likely be acquitted on all counts.
Now, this isn't a capital murder case, but in a capital murder case, it's the same process. You don't weigh in the fact that this person might get the death penalty. You don't.
So understand that capital murder cases have multiple phases, right? So it's always a bifurcated trial in a capital murder case. First, you have to decide the guilt or innocence of the person, and then they have a separate phase to determine whether or not the person should be put to death.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of separated out so that you don't conflate the two. One is the guilt. Two is, okay, should he be put to death, or should he be, get life in prison without parole or something to that effect?
Right? So, all right, let me ask you a very tough layered question. All right, the way you broke it down, right, and the way the system currently is, how it works, how it was set up to work, do you think there will ever be a time when that system will work in our favor, being as though we were initially set up as second-class citizens?
Right. And so I was talking about this the other day. I don't know if you saw my post about the 13th. I did a video on the 13th.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I did a video on the 13th Amendment back in 2016, back in July of 2016, talking about this. And so my answer is no. The answer is no. The system will never change as long as it's profitable for a small group of people, right? Because you got to understand the prison industrial complex is a $1 million industry, $1 billion industry, for-profit industry, right? And so what allows that to happen? The 13th Amendment, right? But for the 13th Amendment and its exceptions clause, the prison, what they're paying people, prison wages, would be in violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. It would be a federal fucking crime to pay somebody 25 cents an hour or a day or whatever it is, right? But because the 13th Amendment it specifically states that slavery shall be abolished except if you're convicted of a crime. It doesn't even say high crime or misdemeanor. It doesn't even say felony. It just says crime. Crime. So, and when you think about that, and you just sit with it for a minute and think, when they were abolishing slavery, they thought it necessary to have an exception. You sons of bitches. You sons of bitches. Right? Like, who does that?
Yeah, that's malice. That's malice and forethought.
What kind of demon are you? Well, we got to make sure we can have them as a commodity some way. Right. So what are we gonna do? All right. Well, if they commit a crime, and then you see that the chain gang, right? And then that's where we get the explosion of the prison population. It steadily rose from that time on, and it's profitable.
Right.
You got contracts. You got some prisons with government contracts that they keep the prisons full. Keep the prisons full. That's a problem.
Now with your post, so how long was your video? Was your video like a short? Was it like
My video was like 6 minutes.
So you did like an expose, a narrative, you had pictures.
There was a narrative on how the prison industrial complex will never change because of the profiting and the reasoning behind the profiting is the 13th Amendment. And then I broke down the exceptions clause, and
it was July 2016, and then you said that 13th, Michelle Alexander's Netflix thing came out in September.
Ava DuVernay.
Oh, Ava DuVernay, yeah. But wasn't it based on Michelle's book?
No, she was just one of the contributors in the film. So there were, I think Brian Levinson was in it. There were a few other people.
Okay. So had you met Ava before? Had you met her?
Never.
Did she follow you?
So she didn't follow me, but here's what I will say. I had a video that went viral November 2015. So I was a little hot that next year. Right, that was the Tamir Rice video where I was like, "Fuck America!" That went viral. It was on everything. Everybody picked it up. Blah blah blah. So I know people know of me, right?
Okay.
And I know that her team does search for videos and they send her stuff. I know that for a fact. The other thing was I couldn't find anything on production for the 13th. Nothing. Like, how long did it take to make this movie? This documentary. We know documentaries take 8 weeks. Right. So yours came out in October. Where'd you get the idea from? I just want to know. I just got questions.
Yeah. Have you ever?
Nobody talking about the exceptions clause in the 13th Amendment.
Yeah. No.
Nobody.
No. I would agree.
People, you know what I'm saying? So
usually when pre-production, somebody will leak something. It's a thing coming out in about 6 months. Usually there'll be some type of. But it was nothing. Have you ever pursued it?
So when it first happened, that's when I first went on to Twitter, and that's when she blocked me.
Oh.
So the block is not new, but it was bothering me. And I was like, let me just let people know that she blocked me. Right? He was like, well, that's how her Twitter set up. That's how it's set up now.
Yeah.
And I have another Twitter for my bodybuilding, and she ain't blocked that shit.
Yeah.
That's only Fit Body. Fit Body is not attorney Ike Speaks or none of that, right? You didn't block Fit Body. So I don't know. Listen, just tell me. I got a couple questions.
Yeah. Right. She all about empowerment. Break down.
Just let me know.
Yeah, give me a production credit. Oh wow, that's
come on.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. All right, last question. Shift gears a little bit. Down here in Montgomery County, I just want to get your opinion on this. They just passed, a budget for Montgomery County school system. And part of that was the proposed removal of school resource officers, basically the police that sit in the schools and sit in the.
I know them well.
And the argument is, here's the argument, is as I put this on Facebook, and it was really 50-50, which I found surprising, from educators and parents alike. So the argument is, what happens to the students and their interactions with a police officer on campus, on the high school campus, equates to perpetuating the school to prison pipeline.
It's trauma.
Trauma, right. And so the person behind it, the bill or the language in the budget legislation was somebody on the school board saying that he was influenced by kids, by the students, right? So essentially it's about to get passed. It was some number. I can't even quote the number, but there was one in every school. Some of them had them just in the parking lot, and they had substations in the school building. And the proposal is that if you need police services, just call 911, because now this officer is free to police the community, and he still won't be far. He just won't be on site. Okay, so that's context, right? Law enforcement, they're saying with the issues that y'all have that y'all can't handle on your own, it's still going to put a strain on us, because now it's going to take us time to get there, to deal with it. Leave this in place. It was working, blah, blah, blah. I heard from Black people for and against. And some of the reasons I thought were fascinating that, so I'm going to go with unpopular opinion and just want to get your thoughts. I think it's a dumb idea. I don't know.
Take them out or keep them?
To take them out.
Okay.
And here's why. I get the connection with perpetuating or simulation of the school to prison pipeline.
Right.
But I don't think it's that. The fact the part that got me in the story was when I got to the end of the story and they said the idea came from the students. Of course it did. Of course, and I deal with this population. A lot of them, they have information at their fingertips. They have the world. They have everything. But a lot of them think they're so smart, like they're reinventing the wheel.
Right.
They saw 2020 happen, and their activism button, got engaged, and we want to do this, and we want to blah blah blah. We're going to be the generation that blah blah blah. You take police out the schools? Nah, man. Nah, so the way some of these schools is, nah, man. I don't know, man.
So my thing is, I would offer a intermediate, right? Because I don't think the school resource officer needs to be a police officer. He could be a peace officer.
Yes,
it doesn't have to be with the police department necessarily, right? Which sort of removes some of the stigma that the kids might be interacting with the police.
Right.
And instead of the school resource officer being a police figure, it's more of an extension of the school security. That's it. And so I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous to take the school resource officers out if we can put them that way. That's how they were in my high school.
Right.
And I had a good relationship with the school resource officer because I stayed in trouble. I stayed in trouble. But it wasn't a policing type of relationship.
Yeah. Right.
Even though they had relationships with the police.
Right.
So I think that there is a delicate balance. There's a happy medium that can be found. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. But when we're listening to kids tell us what to do, or we're listening to people tell us why they shoot Asian people, we in the weeds, right? We can't listen to people. What's happening right now?
Right. Yeah. That's what I said. It was so wild because the guy that was making the point from the school board, every point he hit made sense. He said, "There's no psychologist. There's no mediation. There's no nothing. There's just police." And I was like, "Okay, bet that makes sense. Yeah, change that." But then when it was like, this initiative came from the students, I was like, they just got together trying to be woke, fake woke, and like we can't move the weed like we want to, and
right.
Because yeah, and I hate to say this, but like, because this sounds like some old erudite, but if you that student and y'all really not doing nothing, and you ain't knocking heads, and you ain't bringing the pistol in there, then having that officer in there is really not affecting you in no way, shape, or form.
Right.
Especially if you're not making contact, then you're not. There's no school to prison pipeline for you.
Right.
But I guess the issue was that for the people who, when they come in there and rough up the girl that doesn't want to take her coat off in class, or body slam the black girl to the ground. Not saying that that's what happened there, but I get that part of the argument.
Sure.
You don't have to be, ATF,
right,
in a school building,
right.
So I get that. I'm not for that.
Right.
But having a
training, can't we? Can we address that with the appropriate training for the appropriate resource officer who's going to be stationed in the school? This is what you're allowed to do. This is what you're not allowed to do. I mean, why did they make it seem like it's so difficult? You're going to put somebody in there, you're going to run roughshod? No.
Right.
You're going to say these are your parameters that you work in. You step outside these parameters, you could be liable to all these kids and their parents.
Yeah, because high school is for fights. I mean, that's what the fights is supposed to be. I remember my principal, man, they used to wear my principal out. He used to try to break up. Like 5-on-5s.
Don't do that.
And he'd be getting. I was like, wow, yeah, we had just had administrators. We had athletic administrators who all were like ex-football players or whatever, but they weren't cops.
Yeah.
And you had a relationship with them, and you respected them and feared them because they might have got with you the same way you was getting with.
That's right.
But not police.
Not police.
Yeah. But to the point, and you brought it up. This will be the last point. The hate crimes against Asian Americans, the national crisis, and the recent bill that got passed. So I was being some kind of way on Twitter today. I reached out to Kamala Harris, Ilhan Omar, Yana Presley, AOC, Bernie, Tim Scott. I added all of them. Did it twice. And I was like, and I wasn't being snarky. I worded it carefully. I rewrote it like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Didn't even draw attention to the new hate crime bill. I was just like, who is the elected official we need to reach out to get legislation passed to combat hate and violence against African Americans.
Right.
Point blank, period.
Right, because we can't get nothing passed.
Because obviously you can do it.
You can do it. It can be, no, obviously it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done.
Right.
So it's like now I'm like in a way where I'm like, all right, well, maybe we need to ask that way now instead of just like, let me get. We should be like, hey, you just did it.
Right.
Can we do it again?
We can do it a whole lot more times because there's a whole lot of bills sitting waiting.
And it's definitely data. There's definitely data. And then somebody tried to correct me and they were like, well, the anti-lynching bill last year, the VP was she co-authored that and it went to filibuster because of Rand Paul. And I'm like, yeah, but y'all just did one that just moved.
Right. You're right. Right.
It just moved.
And why are we still fighting for an anti-lynching bill in 2021? That's egregious. That's egregious. It's offensive. I'm personally offended. I'm professionally offended that that's still a thing. That's ridiculous. Why are we still trying to get John Conyers HR 40 passed? We just want to study reparations. Just study it. We ain't saying you got to give us nothing. Just look into the shit. You won't pass that. And he didn't put that up since 1987. Every year reintroducing that bill. And we still here in 2021. Because nothing has changed. How about that?
Right.
How about the fact that Joe Biden, that Biden is president means nothing, right? And the Democrats are clueless, absolutely clueless. You got the president saying the filibuster, it's okay. Get out of here. It's not okay. That's why we don't have shit. But you know, he's not Lindsey Graham. He ain't like, well, we gonna do it my way then. But he ain't, you know, he's not Mitch McConnell. He's not. He's like, I don't know. He's got dementia.
So without pointing to the obvious or anything negative about this most recent bill, why do you think it was, from a legal standpoint, it was able to take shape and come to fruition in such haste?
You know, it's one of those bills where nobody has to take a side, right? Nobody's taking sides. I don't think anybody's taking sides, right? It doesn't have the black-white race aspect, and it doesn't have a monetary aspect, right? When things get by when it doesn't involve black people,
they
become obstructionist when it becomes about us. They always have been. I mean, that is the history of this country.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as it involves us or something we are entitled to or asking for, seeking, anything, well, we wait, right? That's what we've always been told.
Yeah.
Just wait a little long. And we are still being told that, even with this new administration.
Are you familiar with anything in it? Like what now that it's law, what is law? What is law?
I didn't even know.
Okay, because I want to know now.
I didn't even know.
Because now that they've established that, you know, you can prove hate crimes, because before hate crimes were so hard to prove. I just want to know what can I do? I want to know what can I do now? What can I do?
I'm gonna look it up and come back.
That'll be the next one. All right, there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
That's my homework. I didn't look at that. Thank you, family. Always a pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Take care.
There it is, y'all. Man, so much info. I gotta take a break. I just gotta digest that, man. That's just, she come through with it. So much. One more time. Oh, speaking of reparations, I don't know if you saw this. Evanston, Illinois. I don't have the story up. I just read it over the weekend. Evanston, Illinois becomes the first city with some type of reparations package for its residents. Matter of fact, no, that's an interesting. Let me go find that. Hold on, stand by. It's a live show. Don't trip. Evanston, Illinois, because you got to hear the details so you can understand it. Reparations. Some people say it's not enough. Some people say it's too much. I think it's a good start. All right, here we go. So they just voted. So it's going to happen. Some people in the Black Lives Matter movement are calling it reparations light. Okay, that page froze up. Y'all hear that construction next door? They know I'm doing the show. Ridiculous. All right, Evanston, Illinois. Let me go to a better website because it was not letting me scroll. NBC News. Let's do that. This is from last week, but it'll give you all the details. All right, Chicago suburb is to become the first city to give Black residents reparations. Let me give you the details. All right, let's share the screen so we can read together. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Don't trip. Do-do-do. Do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Don't trip. All right, here we go. Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, is setting a precedent for racial equality as it moves forward and becoming the first city in the country to fund reparations for its Black residents. But some residents say it doesn't go far enough to truly be called reparations. What they voted was basically here's what they did. They are doing some equal housing updates to combat decades of redlining. And so they're using recreational cannabis tax to fund it. They pledged to distribute $10 million over 10 years. Now, first of all, there's a whole bunch of things going on right here. The cannabis industry. I need to get somebody on. We need to have a whole week just about that. Just the type of ghost money that's in cannabis and the weed in it. And, oh, gee whiz. If y'all good enough to pledge $10 million over 10 years, that means y'all making some guapolini. Anyway, so the city, it's a 3% tax on your weed that the city is collecting, spreading that out, $10 million over 10 years for the residents. They said the first $400,000 will be dedicated to addressing housing needs. The city council expected to vote today. It was supposed to today. I got to see if it passed. They say reparations is the most appropriate legislative response to the historic practices and contemporary conditions of the Black community. And although many of the anti-Black policies have been outlawed, many remain embedded in policy, including zoning and other government practices. This is Robin Rue Simmons. She's an alderperson in Evanston's 5th Ward who introduced the legislation. Wait a minute, I gotta give her some of that. Okay. Under the program's first phase, qualifying residents will get $25,000 to use towards home ownership, home improvement, and mortgage assistance. To qualify, residents must either have lived in or been a direct descendant of a Black person who lived in Evanston between 1919 and 1969, who suffered discrimination in housing because of city ordinances, policies, or practices. It would be interesting to know, how do you prove it? While Evanston passed a fair housing ordinance in 1969, redlining and overt discriminatory housing practices were sharply evident for years afterwards. Okay, all right. That's about the much on that. Okay. Goes in. Very good article. That's on NBC News. So Google that. Do your Googles. But I thought that was interesting because she brought up the reparations point. And the conversation is always, well, how will it be done? And there's some smart people who have given ideas and suggestions over the years. And like you said, the John Conyers bill, HR 40 or whatever the number was, he just wants you to look at it, just start to study and everybody trip all over themselves. But a hate bill just appeared out of nowhere and happened. It's fascinating to me. Okay. All right. What is that? All right, y'all. That's about it. There were a couple other stories, but we'll get to those Wednesday. I think we've filled this show with a lot of info, a lot of morsels and tidbits that we can take with us and process, chew on, and that's that. All right, let me end this right here. All right, thank you all for tuning in today. We'd like to give a special shout out to our sponsors, Drunken Fruit and 2A Apparel, and our executive producer, Mr. Clarkson, down the hall in Studio G, and our New York bureau chief, John Watson from All Fun and Games, and also you, the viewer, for your support and your eyeballs. Hit the thumbs up, man. Hit the chat. The share button. Let somebody else watch this a little later. Tell them about it. And also, Ike Speaks. Appreciate you. Attorney Ike Speaks, bodybuilder, author, criminal defense attorney, all-knowing, and all of that. All right. If there's no further questions, we're going to head up out of here, man. Like Bruce used to say, man. He said, usually you try to end on a big joke, but I just like to leave. That's what he said.
I don't care if it is a closet. You still looking mad official.